Let's not pretend you don't know. You know where you're slipping. You know the habits you've abandoned. You know the excuses you wrap in soft language. Like, I've been going through a lot, or I just need time, or I'm trying. You say those words to sound gentle, but they're not gentle. They're dangerous, because the more you repeat them, the more you protect the life you say you want to escape. And this is where the reset begins, with honesty so brutal, it feels like betrayal. But it's not betrayal, it's liberation. Here's the first rule of your 7-day reset. You cannot become the man you respect until you destroy the man you keep making excuses for. That means calling it what it is, not a rough patch, but procrastination, not taking time to figure things out, but distraction in disguise, not being patient with yourself, but letting yourself off the hook too easily. Because the version of you that's undisciplined, overstimulated, overwhelmed, has one superpower. It's a master at spinning failure into justification, and you've been listening to it like it's gospel. The Stoics didn't sugarcoat. They stood in front of their flaws and faced them like fire. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, "I've had a long day. I deserve to rest," he said. Why were you born? To feel good or to do what's right? You've been telling yourself a story for months now, that you'll change when things settle, that you just need clarity, that you're working on it. But nothing changes until you admit you've been lying to yourself. You haven't been too busy. You've been unstructured. You haven't been stuck. You've been avoiding discomfort. You haven't lacked time. You've lacked focus. And the second you admit that, you take the first real breath in weeks, because the truth hurts, but it also unlocks. This is day one. This is the mirror. This is the line in the sand. You're not here to feel better. You're here to reclaim agency. And you don't reclaim agency by feeling your way through it. You reclaim it by cutting through the noise, through the rationalizations, through the inner dialogue that keeps you trapped in. So today, journal this. Where have I been lying to myself? What do I keep excusing that needs to be confronted? What truth have I been avoiding because I'm scared of what it will demand? You don't have to be perfect today. You just have to stop pretending you don't know. Because clarity starts with radical internal confrontation. And if you skip this, everything else is just decoration on dysfunction. No more lies, no more hiding, no more softly spoken sabotage. This is day one, and the man you want to become is hiding behind the lies you refuse to let die. Day two, starve the noise, feed the focus. You wake up, phone lights up, you tap out of sleep and straight into distraction. Before your feet hit the ground, you've already been told who to compare yourself to, what you're behind on, and what fire you need to put out. And then you wonder why the day feels scattered, why you can't concentrate, why your goals feel like fog and your motivation feels like a myth. Here's why. You're overfed with input and undernourished in intention. Your mind wasn't designed to process 1,000 voices before breakfast, to scroll through curated illusions, and come out emotionally grounded, to chase 17 tabs and still feel present. It's not weakness, it's wiring. And if you want your power back, you need a reset, not just in schedule, but in stimulation. Today's reset discipline is simple, but it will feel like withdrawal, because it is. You're not just addicted to dopamine. You're addicted to escape. And the tool you use to escape? It's in your pocket, buzzing, blinking, begging for attention you can't afford to give away anymore. So here's the move. You cut the noise at the source. You choose silence, not as absence, but as fuel. Today, go on a fast, not from food, from stimulation. No social media, no endless videos, no opinion overload, no news that you can't act on, no notifications hijacking your nervous system every 4 minutes. Instead, 1 hour of intentional deep work. 1 walk without your phone, 1 meal without content in your face, 1 journal session, no distractions, just your thoughts and the silence you've been avoiding. It won't feel good. It'll feel boring. It'll feel like withdrawal. But that discomfort, that's your brain recalibrating. That's your nervous system coming off the drug. That's your clarity coming home. Focus isn't a personality trait. It's a practice. And you don't get it by trying harder. You get it by feeding it the environment it needs. Every time you say no to noise, you say yes to clarity. Every time you choose depth over novelty, you strengthen the muscle that will rebuild your life. You don't need a productivity hack. You need stillness. You don't need 10 new apps. You need discipline. You don't need more stimulation. You need space. So take it, own it, and remember, you're not just detoxing from digital noise. You're reclaiming the inner signal you forgot you had. Day 3. Make a promise you'll actually keep. You've read books, watched videos, made plans, written goals, set intentions, and yet, nothing sticks. Not because you don't care, but because you've made too many promises and kept too few. Each time you say you'll start, and don't, you teach your mind that your word doesn't matter. Each time you quit halfway, you tell your nervous system that discomfort is stronger than you. Each time you commit with excitement, but abandon with excuses, you lose more than progress. You lose trust in yourself, and without that trust, you're not grounded, you're not focused, you're just drifting between motivation spikes, hoping one of them finally saves you. Here's the Stoic reset for today. Make one promise. One, small, specific, and then keep it no matter what. Not because it's massive, but because it's real, because it means something, because if you can't keep a vow to yourself, you'll never be able to build the life you say you want. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." But that only works if what you say to yourself becomes something you live. So today, write down one promise. It could be a 30-minute workout, a cold shower, 500 words written, 1 hour with your phone off, a full meal without distractions. Make it small enough to be doable, but meaningful enough to stretch your commitment. And when the resistance shows up, as it will, remind yourself, this is no longer about convenience. This is about becoming someone you can count on. And when it's done, don't rush to the next thing. Don't downplay it. Sit with it. Feel what it means to follow through, to say you do something, and actually do it, because this is how discipline is forged, not in loud declarations, but in quiet completions, not in public inspiration, but in private consistency. You don't need to commit to 20 new habits today. You just need to become the kind of person who follows through on one. One promise, one brick, one non-negotiable that doesn't bend with your mood. And if you do that for 7 days straight, you won't just reset your mind, you'll rebuild your identity. Because the man who keeps his word, even to himself, is the man who becomes unshakable. Day 4. Face the one thing you've been avoiding. There's something you've been circling. You know it. It lingers in your peripheral like a shadow that won't fade. A conversation, a habit, a truth, a task that whispers every day. You can't avoid me forever, but you try anyway. You keep busy. You organize your to-do list. You light a productivity candle and clean your workspace. But all of it is camouflage. You're not organizing. You're hiding. Because there's always that one thing, that one action you postpone because it's uncomfortable, that one decision you delay because it means admitting something to yourself. And if you're honest, that thing owns you. Avoidance is invisible control. It tells you, not yet, it's not urgent, you're not ready. But all it's doing is leaking your energy by the hour. Every time you avoid, you shrink, not outwardly, but internally. And here's the Stoic reset for today. Find the thing you've been avoiding and walk directly into it. No more sidesteps, no more justifications, no more soon. Because the life you want, it lives on the other side of what you won't face. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them." You've made this thing bigger than it is in your head, and the only way to shrink it is to step into it. So today, identify it, name it, write it down in brutal honesty. And then, if it's a hard conversation, have it. If it's a task, do it first. If it's a truth, speak it aloud. You're not here to manage fear. You're here to transmute it, to look it in the face and say, "You don't get to decide how I move." Because every time you flinch, you reinforce weakness. But every time you face it, no matter how small, you reinforce sovereignty. And when this day ends, ask yourself, what did I confront? How did it feel? And what would the older version of me have done instead? This is how you break the loop, not with productivity tricks, but with raw confrontation. Because the Stoic doesn't chase peace by avoiding fire, he finds peace through it. Day 5. Eliminate one thing that weakens you daily. There's something in your day that you tolerate. Something small, something quiet, something that doesn't seem dangerous, but it leaks you, bit by bit, until you're too numb to notice what it's stealing. Maybe it's your nightly scroll through meaningless content. Maybe it's the extra 30 minutes of sleep that destroys your momentum. Maybe it's the person you keep replying to, even though the conversation always ends in confusion or regret. Whatever it is, it's familiar, and familiarity breeds blindness. You've stopped seeing it as a threat because it's always been there. It's normal, but just because it's normal doesn't mean it's neutral. And here's the brutal truth. You cannot become powerful if you keep feeding the things that weaken you daily. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And most of what we waste isn't wasted in huge chunks. It's in the little allowances, the small compromises, the soft addictions. You've probably built your day around one of them. You say, "I needed to unwind," or "It's not that serious." But if you track the emotional cost, it's massive. Not because it destroys you instantly, but because it teaches your brain that comfort is a reward, even when you haven't earned it. So here's today's reset. Find one thing, one behavior, one app, one habit, one interaction that weakens your clarity, energy, or control, and eliminate it cold. Not reduce it, not modify it, not cut it, eventually. Eliminate. And yes, it'll hurt. You'll rationalize it. You'll try to negotiate with it. But that's when you know it's real, because only the addictions we defend are the ones that still own us. So make the cut. Delete the app. Mute the thread. Leave the conversation. Trash the sugar. Turn off the binge. Let the numbness starve. And don't do it just for today. Do it for identity. Because the man who can say no to what weakens him is the man who's free to say yes to what strengthens him. And at the end of the day, write this down. What did I eliminate? How do I feel without it? What did it give me in return? Peace, energy, clarity? You're not just subtracting distraction. You're adding fire. You're reclaiming mental bandwidth. You're choosing power over pacification. And that choice, when made daily, builds a mind that doesn't bend to comfort, but rises into discipline. Day 6. Build a system, not a fantasy. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your systems. And most people don't fail because they didn't want it enough. They fail because they had no process, no rhythm, no non-negotiables. You say you want to be more disciplined, more focused, more consistent. But what does that look like at 6:30 a.m. when your bed is warm and your thoughts are weak? What does that look like on day 4 when the excitement's gone and no one's clapping for you? What does that look like when your brain says, "Just skip today"? You've earned it. That's where fantasy dies and structure is born. See, a system doesn't care about your mood. A system doesn't beg for motivation. A system says, "This is what I do." Period. And the Stoics lived like this, not emotionally, but intentionally. They created internal order, so the external world couldn't throw them into chaos. Marcus Aurelius journaled every morning. Epictetus taught discipline through routine and repetition. They weren't floating through their day hoping for clarity. They built it. So today's reset is clear. Build your system, not a perfect one, not a viral one, just one that keeps your fire alive when the storm comes. Ask yourself, what 3 things must I do every single morning, regardless of how I feel? What time of day will I protect for deep work or training? What will I subtract at night to recharge instead of scroll? And most importantly, what time do I go to sleep every single night? Build it, write it out, time block it if you need to, tattoo it to your fridge. Because if you don't make your day sacred, the world will make it urgent. And urgency always beats discipline, unless you fight back with structure. So build your system, stick to it for the next 48 hours without deviation, and watch how your identity shifts. Not because you feel better, but because you showed your mind that chaos doesn't rule here anymore. You do. A disciplined man doesn't chase balance. He engineers it. He sets rituals that don't depend on emotion. He creates boundaries for his brain to breathe. And that's not rigidity, that's freedom. Your freedom begins with what you repeat, and what you repeat becomes who you are. So today, stop fantasizing and start systemizing. Because the future you're dreaming of, it only shows up when your discipline does first. Day 7. Reclaim your evenings with brutal self-honesty. You spend the whole day trying to be strong, focused, productive, and then 10 p.m. comes, and you fall into softness. You open your phone. You binge mindless content. You eat what you said you wouldn't. You stay up just a little longer. And suddenly, the clarity you earned? Gone. The momentum you built? Burned. Not because you failed, but because you forgot one truth. The man you become tomorrow is built by what you tolerate tonight. The evening is where your real standards reveal themselves. Not your goals, not your talk, not your morning routine, but how you behave when no one sees. When you're tired, when you're vulnerable, when the silence tempts you back into sedation, that's where discipline either deepens or dies. You don't need more willpower. You need clarity before the craving. So here's today's reset. Audit your evenings. Not gently, not vaguely, brutally. Ask yourself, what do I do after 8 p.m. that doesn't serve me? What small compromises do I make that feel harmless, but steal my next day's fire? What would a disciplined version of me do instead, even if it's boring? And don't just analyze it. Rewrite it. Reclaim your night like it's sacred, because it is. Create a shutdown ritual. Make it non-negotiable. Turn your screen off at the same time. Dim the lights. Read. Stretch. Journal. Reflect. Even just 5 minutes. But give your nervous system closure, not stimulation. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. You're not punishing yourself. You're positioning yourself so that when morning comes, you're not dragging guilt into your goals. You're carrying clean momentum. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that's exactly what happens at night. When the mind is idle and untamed, it invents chaos, worry, regret. It pulls you into loops you thought you'd outgrown. But if you tame the evening, you win the morning, and if you win enough mornings, you take back your life. So tonight, start the ritual, even if it's small, especially if it's small, because small disciplines compound into sovereignty. You've made it through 7 days of war, not against the world, but against the parts of you that love comfort more than clarity. And that's the hardest war there is, because no one applauds when you put your phone down. No one sees when you go to bed instead of scrolling for dopamine. No one claps when you do the boring reps of journaling or stare down your avoidance until it breaks. But that's where the shift happened. In the moments that looked ordinary on the surface, but were revolutions underneath. You faced your lies. You starved the noise. You made and kept promises. You confronted what you've been avoiding. You cut out daily poison. You built a system. And you reclaimed your nights, not perfectly, but honestly. And in doing so, you showed yourself something rare, that you're not broken, just buried. That the real you doesn't need to be created, only uncovered. The man who wakes up with clarity, who does what he says he'll do, who walks toward discomfort, instead of away from it. That man has always been there, waiting behind the lies, the noise, the fear, the habits that kept you numb and blaming. And now, you've disturbed the pattern. You've woken the part of you that can't be sedated anymore. Not with distractions, not with food, not with fake connection, not with empty progress. Let's loop it back for a moment. Where were you before day 1? Lethargic? Drained? Caught in a cycle of soft starts and silent self-betrayal. And now, where are you? Not fixed, not finished, but forged. This is what Stoic discipline is. It's not shiny. It's not sexy. It's not Instagrammable. It's a silent, personal, relentless return to what matters. You've survived the fire. Now we sharpen the blade. Ask yourself, what's shifted? What feels quieter inside? What weakness have I finally looked in the eye? You're no longer the man who waits to feel ready. You're the man who acts ready, and lets readiness catch up. You've planted a seed, but don't mistake momentum for completion. Now comes the hard part. Becoming the man who does this consistently. Embodying the identity you've only flirted with. The next parts will burn a little deeper because we're not just detoxing behavior. We're building foundation. You've survived the old cycle. Now let's bury it for good. There comes a point in every reset, every transformation, where you realize it's not just about building better habits. It's about burying old versions of yourself. And that's not poetic. It's brutal. Because the old you? He's familiar. He's safe. He's the voice that whispers, "Don't push too hard. Take it easy. Tomorrow's fine." He's the one who built excuses with masterful logic, who survived chaos by staying small, who made peace with patterns that stole your potential because discomfort felt worse than decay. And here's the truth you've earned the right to hear now. That version of you has to die, not improved, not managed, not slowly phased out, killed. Because as long as you keep negotiating with him, he'll keep slipping in through the cracks. He'll show up in your justifications, in your language, in your silence, and worst of all, in your identity. You'll still say things like, "I've always struggled with consistency. I'm just not a morning person. I work better under pressure." But those aren't facts. They're grave sites, tiny tombstones you visit daily instead of walking away from. So here's the next reset. Burn the biography. Write a new one. Right now, take out your journal. Write this at the top. Who I am now, without apology. And don't list dreams. List facts. Speak it in present tense. I am the man who wakes up when he says he will. I am the man who keeps his word, especially to himself. I am the man who confronts what others avoid. I am the man who builds systems, not excuses. Don't write what you hope for. Write what you choose to be, then read it aloud. Seriously. Because until your ears hear you declare it, your brain won't fully believe it. And the moment you feel doubt rise up, that's your old identity clawing for survival. Good. Let him scream. Let him panic. Let him feel the sting of being replaced, because you've already proven he's not in charge anymore. This isn't manifestation, it's execution. It's choosing to build from new bricks, not just repaint the old house. Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." So stop arguing. Stop rehearsing your old limitations. Stop living by outdated definitions of you. Today, the old you dies, not in drama, but in decision, quiet, clear, uncompromising. And when he tries to come back, don't negotiate, don't explain, just say, "He doesn't live here anymore." Let's be honest, you've started things before, routines, resets, programs, goals, motivated by pain, inspired by pressure. You've had the hype, you've had the momentum, but somewhere in the middle, you dropped the thread, life got loud, comfort crept back in, discipline turned into delay, and you told yourself, "I'll get back to it." But deep down you knew you wouldn't. Not then, maybe not ever. And that's the identity you've carried, not openly, but subtly, a quiet agreement with yourself. I'm the kind of man who starts strong, but fades. But what if, right here, right now, you ended that contract? What if you stopped being the man who sparks fire and started being the one who builds heat that never dies out? That's what finishing does. It rewrites your narrative. It says, I'm not fueled by moods. I don't rely on hype. I complete, even when it's quiet. And finishing doesn't mean perfection. It means follow through. It means holding the line. It means doing what you said you'd do, especially when no one is checking anymore. You've come through 9 days of friction, of rewiring, of killing comfort, of confrontation and clarity, and now you decide what it means. Is this just another thing you almost completed? Or is this the moment everything changed? Because one moment of completion can become the core of your new identity. It can become the reference point you return to when the next storm hits. Seneca wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." And the greatest learning is this: that discipline is not seasonal. It's not a sprint. It's not something you wear when life feels messy. It's something you become. So today, become it. Look in the mirror and say, I finish what I begin. Not once, not just when it's easy, but always. And don't just say it. Prove it. Complete the rituals. Hold the boundaries. Check off the list. Not for a badge, but for the man you're building. Because the man who finishes, he walks different. He thinks different. He doesn't overpromise. He doesn't underdeliver. He moves in alignment, quietly, consistently, unshakably. And once you finish this reset, you'll never go back. Because you'll know, not just in your mind, but in your bones, I finish. They didn't see you quit the dopamine loop. They didn't see you break the scroll addiction. They didn't hear the internal war when you turned down temporary pleasure. They didn't notice the resistance you silenced, the cravings you outlasted, the excuses you buried. And now you walk differently. You move with stillness. You don't react to noise. You don't explain your silence. You don't chase what once seduced you. And they won't get it. They'll say you're acting strange, that you're distant, that you're too intense, too focused, too disciplined. They'll say, lighten up, relax a little. You're doing too much. But here's the part they'll never understand. You've tasted what it feels like to be fully in control. And there's no going back. You've met a version of yourself that doesn't flinch when it's hard, that doesn't beg for comfort, that doesn't fold when the crowd folds. And that version of you? He's real now. Not some theoretical man, not a one-time performance, but who you are becoming. You'll notice the shift in conversations. You'll find yourself uninterested in gossip, turned off by small talk, drawn to quiet, pulled toward depth. You won't laugh at what used to amuse you. You won't chase what used to excite you. And they'll wonder, what happened to you? And your answer? You'll smile and say, I stopped needing noise to feel alive. You've built something the world doesn't know how to measure. It's not status, not aesthetics, not followers. It's inner sovereignty. And that scares people, because when you stop chasing what they still idolize, you become a mirror they're not ready to look into. So don't expect applause. Don't wait for recognition. You've crossed into a life that's fueled by alignment, not attention. The work you did this week. It wasn't loud, but it was sacred. It wasn't dramatic, but it was absolute. And here's the final test. Can you keep walking this path, even when no one understands it? Even when the world tries to pull you back? Even when you're met with silence, not support? The Stoics didn't live for praise. They lived for peace. A kind of peace that only comes when your life aligns with your values, when your actions match your intentions, when your energy doesn't leak from inconsistency anymore. So when the world says you've changed, say, I didn't change. I returned to who I was before the noise, to the man I buried under distraction. And then walk on, because you don't owe the old world a version of you that played small. You owe yourself the discipline to never shrink again. There's a version of you that doesn't flinch, who wakes up with clarity, moves through the day with precision, sleeps with peace, and repeats it without needing to prove anything to anyone. That version isn't some future self, some distant someday. He's here, he's been here, waiting for you to stop practicing weakness and start walking in identity. Because here's the truth. You don't become him by trying. You become him by living like it's already you. You don't need another course. You don't need a perfect morning. You don't need more permission. You need a decision to show up like you already are, the man who finishes, who sharpens, who recalibrates when he slips instead of spiraling. Discipline isn't about streaks. It's about recovery. And identity isn't about who you think you are. It's about what you repeat daily, even when it's boring, especially when it's boring. This reset wasn't just about change. It was about clarity. You saw what was slowing you down. You stripped it. You saw who you've been. You grieved it. You felt the quiet potential rumble underneath your habits, and you answered it. Now the only thing left is this. Never pretend you don't know again. Don't pretend you need more time. You've had 7 days. Don't pretend you're not ready. You've built proof. Don't pretend it was temporary. It's only temporary if you treat it like a detox, not a rebirth. This is not the end of a 7-day sprint. It's the first step of a lifetime rhythm. The rhythm of the man who doesn't get ready. He stays ready. And that man? He doesn't get thrown by chaos. He doesn't panic when people don't understand. He doesn't collapse when he's tired. Because he's not here for feelings, he's here for truth. The Stoics didn't teach flashy discipline. They taught invisible consistency, the kind that looks boring from the outside, but turns your mind into a fortress. You've tasted that. And now the only thing left is to make it your new default. So, write it down one last time. This is who I am now. List the rituals, list the boundaries, list the new language, then live like you never forgot. Because you didn't just complete a reset, you became the man who lives one every day, and that man? He doesn't need reminders. He doesn't beg for energy. He doesn't over-explain. He just moves, and the world adjusts. You thought this would be the end, but it's not. It's the start of a new loop, not a flashy one, not a dopamine-drenched hype cycle, but a quiet, soul-level commitment to come back every time you fall, every time you drift, every time you forget. Because you will forget, you'll slip, you'll break the rhythm, you'll hear the old voice again. You've lost it. You're back at zero. You'll never stay consistent, but now you know better. Now you know the loop isn't failure. It's the forge, the place you return to sharpen again and again and again. You've learned the art of reset, not as a band-aid, but as a weapon. You know how to pause, strip the noise, reclaim the day, realign your mind, and start again. Without shame, without theatrics, without needing a new month or a Monday. You've built a system, not just of habits, but of identity. And identity is what you return to when everything else falls. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations as a victory lap. He wrote it as a reminder, a compass, a personal return, every morning, every night, recentering, refocusing, rebuilding. So now, you write yours, in your actions, in your rituals, in how you respond when life pulls at your piece again. And it will. The world doesn't reward stillness. It rewards urgency, addiction, distraction. So your stillness has to become your rebellion, your refusal to be swallowed, your silent resistance to the chaos. You may never get applause for it, but you'll feel it in your bones, in how you breathe, in how you sleep, in how you carry yourself when everything around you is shaking. That's the discipline now, to return before the world drags you too far, to remember what matters and rebuild it faster each time. You're not just resetting your habits. You're designing a new default, one where power isn't loud. It's lived, where strength isn't performed, it's felt. And from this moment on, every setback becomes a signal, not that you failed, but that it's time to return, time to sharpen, time to remember. So return to the breath, to the system, to the fire, and keep walking, keep refining, keep repeating, until this isn't a challenge anymore. It's just who you are. Now go. Move like it's already you. Live like the proof is already there. And never look back. Like this video and subscribe to this channel for more, because this is just the beginning.